Hi, this is Anabel DFlux from hardrockhaven.net. I am here with musician Alexander G. We're going to be talking about all things that have to do with endorsement, music, and his experiences in the music industry. How are you today?
Doing quite well. Doing quite well. I'm glad to be here to do this interview. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Absolutely. So let's just jump right into it. I hear you were endorsed by some really, really wonderful music companies. Can you elaborate on that?
Yes, actually, there's been several that I've been absolutely privileged to have been able to work with over the years. But the most recent one is actually the biggest one that I recently got at NAMM 2017. Strictly 7 Guitars. Big Jim over there, Strictly 7. Him and I go back probably about maybe 4, maybe 5 years now. And this company has been trying to get me on their roster since then. And how I came across Strictly 7 was I was introduced by the original lead guitarist, Mike Salerno from Gemini Syndrome. He introduced me to Jim. And at the time, I always had the mind frame of like, now, I'm never going to sign, a guitar company, contract, because a lot of them are very, very stringent, and stuff like that. Well, a lot of things changed, over the time that I've gotten to know Jim. And then this year, it was just basically the culmination of all this time. We decided, hey, you know what, let's move forward, let's build a bass. And 2 weeks after this past NAMM show, he sent me the contract, signed the deal. So right now, as we're doing this interview, I have a custom bass being built, which unfortunately I wish I was able to have it here with us today, but it's still being crafted, and I'm just, super excited to get it, and can't wait to show it off and let people hear it.
Can you tell me a little bit about this custom bass, or is it top secret for now?
Well, that's one of those things if I tell you, I have to kill you.
You might witness a murder on camera.
Actually, it's kind of cool because it's allowing me to utilize some of my other product endorsements, such as EMG pickups, SIT strings, Morley pedals, in-tune picks, Kaler bridges. I use a fixed bridge and their whammy bar. And I know that's not very common that you see a whammy on bass, but to create further tones, I use MXR pedals. I use and I abuse those daily. And to really get my sound out there, I'm using BTPA cables. But damn fly. Basically the meat and potatoes of this particular guitar that we're doing with Strictly 7, we're doing. It's heavily influenced. Let me put it this way: it's actually heavily influenced by a guitar player that I've been working with for several years, Tracy G. He played guitar for Ronnie James Dio for 6 years. You can hear him on the Angry Machines album, Strange Highways, and Dio's Inferno, Last in Live. I don't want to give away too much because it is kind of a thank you to him as far as the influence that he's had on me as a musician as far as generating my tone is concerned. But what we're doing is we're loading EMG pickups in it, signature Geezer Butler, precision and jazz pickups. We're throwing that in there. It's going to be a 4-string bass. It's going to be strung up with SIT power wound. Wait, no. Yeah. Power wound strings. I absolutely love that company. The strings are clearly the best that I've ever used, in all the years that I've played bass, But I mean, there's a couple other very highly respected string companies that I've used, but for one reason or another, they wouldn't last. They couldn't take the beating that I've been told that I give when I play. But SIT has really helped me out through this process. All my main basses are all strung up with SIT strings. Some of them are stainless steel and some of them are nickel. So
very nice.
It's going to be great. I'm really excited about the bass. I've got Spurzl bass tuners going on there, which is a very, very high-end company. Like I said, we're doing the EMG pickups. We've got SIT strings going in on it. As far as the body is concerned, it's going to be a neck-through construction, 100% American-made, which is personally very, very important to me to do this. It's not going to be painted.
Really?
Yeah, it's not going to be painted.
That's kind of unusual because I feel like when people get custom basses, the first thing they ask for is a specific type of paint job.
A lot of artists do. But in this situation, I wanted to do something that I know for a fact has never been done on a bass before. And that's one of the reasons why I use effects and things like that. Just do a lot of crazy stuff. But I really wanted it to stand out from your typical production bass or your $2,000, $3,000 custom shop bass from a very well-respected company.
Yeah.
You know, so, but this one's going to be very special. I'm very, very excited to get it, you know.
Are you going to show it off at next year's NAMM?
That actually has been talked about. That, no joke, that has actually been talked about. Jim and I from Strictly 7, we talked maybe possibly doing a demonstration at the booth. But we still got some time. Anything can change, but I'm really hoping that I'll actually be able to get out there and showcase the new instrument once it's done.
Absolutely, because I think it would be wonderful for the company to really show off how far their customization can go, rather than just the basic paint shop changes and whatnot.
You know, when it comes to custom shop, and I've seen this a lot, you know, with some amazing companies out there, they're endless.
Yeah.
You know, as soon as you hear the word custom, it's like, okay, what am I going to do? You know, for me, this bass that I'm doing, I've designed it for over 4 years. I'm talking straight down to the radius of the neck.
Man,
you know,
you've been thinking about this for a while.
Yes, I have. You know, it's especially with the influence. You know, but there's certain ways that I want the body to be, and you know, certain things, certain internals that I want, certain pickups that I want. You know, stuff like that. It just really took time. You know, because I wanted it to be perfect, because it's going to be the go-to. You know, that I basically use it for everything. You know.
Absolutely. So, do you have a favorite bass in the meantime while you're waiting for your custom baby? You knew I was going to ask that question. I just have to. Well, you know, I'm just throwing you into the deep end so you can swim.
That is right. That's pretty much what you got to do in this industry altogether. You know, you really do gotta swim and really grow your legs really fast, and stuff like this to really stand tall. As far as a favorite bass, that's actually a very loaded question. Because there are a few instruments that I do play quite a lot. One of them is actually my BC Rich Warlock 4-string. It's the Warlock Revenge. Even though it's a production model, I still love it. That one is currently wound up with SIT strings. I think I have stainless steel on there right now. That has my Kahler tremolo system on it, Kahler whammy
Very
system.
nice.
And that one, it's weird because every time when I take that bass out, that one gets a lot of attention. It turns heads. You know, I've had several people come up to me and actually ask me, like, you have a whammy bar on that thing? I was like, yeah. They're like,
Why did you add a whammy bar to it, actually?
There's actually a couple of people that are responsible for that. One of them was Les Claypool from Primus. And the way that dude's a monster, the way he plays bass with that thing. Garth Fielding, he's actually a Kahler endorsee as well. I haven't yet been able to meet him. But I've seen some of the techniques that go into playing with a whammy. I mean, they're very, very similar to that of what a guitar player would do. Mm-hmm. You know, and stuff like that. It's just there's a little bit of learning curve with it. But once you get the hang of it, it's actually a lot of fun to play. It's more expressive. But see, for me, when I utilize the whammy bar, I don't dive bomb my notes. I don't pitch up like crazy. No, I just, you know, keep it real subtle. You know, some little vibrato here and there, a little note shimmer, maybe off of a harmonic or something. You know, something pretty cool. But there's been a lot of mixed reactions that I've encountered with the whammy, but it's actually pretty fun. That one is definitely a personal favorite bass that I use, but one closely followed to that one is actually my ESP Vintage 214, which unfortunately is actually no longer made. I have not seen those in quite some time. That one actually has a little bit of a funny story behind it. I'll just put it in a nutshell for you. I had purchased it at a big box retailer, one of these musical chain stores, and the manager of the store was a very good friend of mine. And I called him up and I had asked him. I says, I need to find this bass because prior to this I just found out that they were going to be, you know, pulling the plug on it.
Ooh.
So I was like, okay.
Do you know why they discontinued it?
I really don't know. I've actually tried to figure that out. Basically, this one, it's ESP's take on just your traditional P bass, you know, which is cool. Yeah, I'm a sucker for traditional body styles and sounds and stuff
Absolutely.
like that. I like it.
Going back to the roots of what
Exactly.
bass is.
Right, absolutely. So there was literally one left in the entire chain of stores in the United States.
God.
So
Makes them very exclusive.
very, very, and I haven't seen one like the one I own in a while. But going back real quick to NAMA this year, they kind of resurrected it as the AP series of basses. I seen it, and I was like, all right, this looks very familiar to me. That one is actually known as the Sabbath bass, because that one's, like I said, that one's loaded with Geezer Butler, signature EMGs. Those are actually my personal favorite set of pickups that I've played ever since becoming an EMG endorsee. In fact, I had used EMG for about 10 to 12 years prior to me even becoming an endorsed artist with EMG.
How did you meet EMG? Or is that a very long story?
No, it's actually quite easy. Actually, I had had an interest in becoming an artist with EMG for quite some time, but I kind of had a little bit of intimidation because being an independent artist, you really don't get a lot of breaks. How it led into it was I had to send one of my pickup systems that I had in for service. I was having some problems with it, and I figured, hey, you know what? This couldn't hurt to ask. So I started talking business with them, and I met Scott, who was doing a little bit of artist relations, but he's also a sales manager over at EMG. And he said, I'll set you up. We'll get you taken care of. And he sent me the contract, sent me a signing bonus, put me up on the website. The contract renews. In fact, I'm renewing for another year next month. It's been pretty awesome doing that. But the main guy is Tommy over in A&R at EMG. That dude, I got to give him a lot of respect because he has really helped me out, with systems and things like that. They've really taken care of me over there, and I love those guys a lot. They're really awesome. I got to hang with them back at NAMM. I hung out with Tommy. That dude's a clown. Super cool dude. I love hanging around with him.
So that kind of leads me to my next point. What tips and tricks do you have for aspiring musicians, especially in regards to endorsements, to actual playing, to the music industry? Because there's a lot of up-and-coming bands that don't really know what to do here because a lot of musicians like to be very hush-hush about it and not kind of spill any of their top secrets and all that stuff.
With that kind of thing, going down to the soggy white stick of it, practice. Just practice. I remember reading somewhere, one of my personal favorite guitar players, Ace Frehley from Kiss, that dude would practice for hours on end until his fingers bled.
Oh. That is dedication right there.
Very. And, I kind of try to lead by example and actually follow by example like that. I don't play until my fingers bleed, but, but I do spend time. Every day I'm playing like 3-4 hours a day. Just going through songs, just whether it be something that I'm writing or just cover tunes just to jam on. To these younger musicians, they're up and coming right now. That's really all I can tell you. Just practice, hone your craft, know what you're doing. And as far as endorsements are concerned, it's actually very, very simple. Play. Get out there, get your band tight, play some shows, show some activity. Show these companies that you're an active band, that you got stuff going. Your press kit, very simple to put together. Quick biography, couple of pictures. Any current endorsements. It helps if you're going to go for bigger companies. It helps to have other endorsements. When you get to the bigger companies like an instrument company or even a pickup company, then that's where you're going to really have to cut your teeth, because those companies, they really do look at you, and be like, hey, this is what's up. This is what we can do for you, and stuff like that. But again, just practice, be good at what you do, and be ready to put in some work if you really want to get somewhere.
I think that's true for most art industries. It's kind of, you really just have to put in the work or you're not going to get anywhere. They're not going to hand it to you on a silver platter.
Oh, no, not at all. I've been doing the music for quite some time, and there's not a day that goes by where I'm not working hard to get to the next level, to take either it's my skill or my career to the next level. Along the way, I've been able to meet some awesome people, through this time, and actually be able to actually get referrals for things from
Excellent.
known artists that I've been able to do. And it's, as an example, Mike Salerno from Gemini Syndrome, he actually referred me to Jim as an artist, and later on, a couple of the guys from Gemini Syndrome themselves referred me to the company as well. So it's being able to get in a really tight circle like that. And somebody once told me just recently, I was on the phone with them, he told me, he says, those are relationships you don't want to lose.
No.
Those are the ones you always want to hold very dear, because me and this individual, we both know Jim personally and stuff like that. And it's just, I've really held on to those words, you know, those friendships, those relationships that you develop with these companies, where you know that they're going to take care of you. Yeah. And Jim himself and many other people I've been able to work with have told me, whatever you need, let us know, we'll get it to you. And these are from several endorsers that I've been honored to work with, you know, and Tommy from EMG being one of them. He told me in an email, says, just let me know what you need. You know, we'll get it done.
There's definitely a level of trust there that you kind of need to cherish and hold dear.
Yes, absolutely. There absolutely has to be that trust. Otherwise, then what are you doing? You know, there has to be that line there.
So, can you tell me about your work with Gemini Syndrome? How did that come about, and what did you do for them?
Oh, yeah.
I just realized that we never even touched on that, and I was kind of under the assumption everyone already knew.
Well, there was a little bit of work that I did get to do with Gemini Syndrome. It was actually really cool. It was a lot of fun. I was asked to be part of the video for their song Anonymous from the Memento Mori album, which is out now. Get it.
You heard him.
I got a phone call. I got a phone call from Aaron Nordstrom, the lead singer of Gemini Syndrome, and he called me and told me that they were planning on doing a video. And there's something else that him and I have in common, which played a part into me joining in for the video. And I told him, I said, anytime, any place, you know, let's do it. I got to work with a serious badass of a director, Brian Cox from Flare Light Films. He directed and shot the video in 360. It was in 360 format. It was amazing. After the shoot, a little bit after the shoot, I got to see the video, and I was stunned as to the work that this guy did. It's unbelievable. I mean, this guy's a real talent with the 360 format, and it's kind of funny because I had heard about it prior to the video. I'd heard about 360 and stuff like that, but I never actually really seen it.
It's not very commonly used in music videos nowadays.
No, it's not.
I see it more in film than I do
films.
in
Yeah,
music
absolutely.
videos.
I think Anonymous was the first video. Actually, it was, to tell you the truth, it was the very first music video I've ever seen that had 360.
It was very cinematic.
Very, very. But doing that work with the band was a great experience. It was a lot of fun. Definitely learned a lot, and being able to take a couple different points in this video is just a lot of fun for me. It's a very humbling experience as well.
I bet it's been very inspirational as well to be surrounded by such an experience and to learn something new and kind of keep moving forward.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. To me, it was a great opportunity for me to basically, stretch my legs, more or less doing different things in the industry, and being able to add it to the list of musical accolades I've been able to compile throughout the years.
And it is quite a list.
Yeah, it is.
You've been around.
I try. It's one thing that I've learned about being in the industry is availability. Mm-hmm. That is one of the main things, availability and humility. Yes. Both those qualities should be a really serious issue for everybody in this industry. Mm-hmm. Because I have seen some of the most talented musicians that just act like, I'm not even going to say the word, but they just need to really grow a brain, period, and understand that there's people that look up to you guys. Like, hey, look, one of the things I actually did witness with my own eyes, and luckily I was actually able to combat it with an encounter I had on my own. I witnessed somebody once basically tell someone to go away because they were asking them something about their amp. I remember it was their amplifiers. They wanted to know their settings, what they were doing. I was a young kid, that got pushed away by this one punk. I'm not gonna say who he was, but he really was a righteous punk, and I'll never forget it. I felt so bad for the dude. A couple of years after that, I was doing a headlining gig in the city of Pomona, city of Pomona, California, and I had just got off stage, just finished with the set, and this brother and sister, they come up to me, and they're asking, like, how do you get these sounds on your bass? Because they had never heard like a wah. They never heard a bass wah on there. And I was like, this is how I do it. I says, you want to see how I do it? You want to see how I do it? And they're like, yeah, sure. I says, come on. So I got them both. I brought them up to the stage. I says, this is what I use. This is how it works. If somebody wants to know something about you, it's clear that you're influencing them to do music and stuff like that. It's very clear. And I was able to catch on to that really fast. They want to know what kind of gear I used, and later on I found out that this dude actually went out and bought a couple of the pedals and actually bought the same bass I was playing that night, but he wanted to really learn. He wanted to know the settings of the pedals. I later got a message from him. It was an email. Somehow they got a hold of my email address. And I was like, I'd be more than willing to come down and help you set up your amp.
That is incredible. And I think a lot of people forget that the goal is also to kind of inspire the next generation of musicians, so when you're gone, someone can kind of come take your place and keep that sound alive, keep that music alive.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
it's something that is kind of lost nowadays. I feel like people are quite greedy over their own careers without wanting to actually share it with people who are going to come up and take their place at some point long after they've passed.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's musicians that I've looked up to over the years, and I've tried to harness their technique, try to learn it, maybe not exactly duplicate their tone, but get very close. And that's one thing that that's always kept me separate. There are some musicians that I can't get the exact tone of, but see, I don't want to do that. I don't want to be exactly like them. I want to be able to do my own thing, but show that particular tone as an influence. Like, hey, if I'm playing in front of a crowd and somebody says, hey, that dude sounds like, so-and-so, like, oh, well, he is an influence on the way I play.
Yeah.
Maybe not so much my tone, but if I'm playing with my fingers or if I'm playing with a pick, I want them to see that.
Absolutely, yeah. So on the topic of teaching musicians and having someone come up to you and kind of ask what your setup was, what is your setup for all the kind of gear enthusiasts out there?
Oh, for the gear nuts.
We love them.
The fun part. I actually try to keep it very, very simple, but I do use a few pedals, because I like to do kind of like real raunchy things with overdrives and distortions and stuff like that with the wah, but also I like to do real pretty stuff. My basic setup is very easy, straightforward. It's the original series of the Fender Rumble 100 bass amps. I love those. I'm actually, telling you the truth, I'm actually trying to find another one because I want to run stereo sound and some other tricks that I want to do. As far as basses are concerned, until I get the Strictly 7 Custom, which I'm actually calling the Holy Bass, I will actually explain that a little bit more later as to why I'm going to be calling it that. I'll be using that one as the main instrument, but for right now, I'm using the vintage 214, the Sabbath bass. I'm using that, and then I'm using an ESP Viper 404, which is actually rare. That one's no longer made, but the one that I'm using for that is actually tuned B, E, A, and D. It's a 4-string, because I really like that bottom end. Now that bass is actually very special. It's got some sentimental value, very high sentimental value. To me for that one. That one I actually got from AP of Gemini Syndrome.
Oh.
I got that one from him. You might see a pattern forming here with these guys.
I think you guys might be friends, but I'm not sure here.
Something like that. I've been using that bass for a while. I've been using, especially with some new material that I'm currently working on right now. That one's going to be probably the dominant instrument in these two new tracks that I'm currently working on right now. As far as The third bass, I use 3 different basses in a lot of the recordings. The other one, this one's a pure monster of a bass. It's an ESP B208 8-string, double octave. Think of a 12-string acoustic guitar.
Man.
That's basically what it is. It's actually one of my personal favorite basses. I use that one on a lot of recordings. That was a lot of fun to play. It really is, but I can tell you right now, it really gives you a workout on your hands and your wrists. It really does. And in a weird way, it actually kind of teaches you how to play more accurately, because there's been times when I've played the 8-string and I go back to a 4 or a 5, I'm finding that my accuracy is becoming more and more on point.
Yeah.
You know, and it's also speed too. You know, I'll be able to play a little bit faster and more control on the neck. Now, as far as pedals, I'm using a Morley dual bass wah, which is like clearly the best wah in the world, as far as I'm concerned. I really love the characteristics of that pedal. It's really is indeed tuned for bass. It really gets in there to what I want it to do. A couple of the pedals that I use for the more effects are from MXR. I love that company. I love that company. I'm currently using the Bass Overdrive, Bass Chorus Deluxe, and the Carbon Copy Delay. But I just recently added the new reverb pedal that they have. But there's a setting on there that I just absolutely love. You guys are actually going to hear it on a new song that I'm doing. It's actually going to be an instrumental. It's a tune called Crossing the Eternal Plane. It's actually it's real pretty. It's real atmospheric, almost. Somebody that heard it, actually, it kind of made me laugh a little bit, because I had never been told this. We're listening to one of the scratch recordings of Plane, and she told me, she said, that song has a real sensual vibe to it. That was a direct quote.
That's an interesting way of describing music.
It was a very, very interesting compliment, if that's what one would call it.
I would consider it a compliment. I mean,
That was really the only
I have like
way.
a preconceived notion when someone would say that of what something might sound like, and it does sound very beautiful and almost melodic and flowy.
It is.
That's what I'm thinking of anyways.
Is. Yeah, it actually is, and people are really going to trip out when they hear what this pedal and what this bass is doing. I'm actually using the 8-string with it and all this. It's going to be a really cool thing, because what I like to do with the pedals, you know, like if I'm playing something, you know, like hard rock, if I'm doing something heavy, I like to really dirt up the tone. So what I do in my system, I have a special switching system where with the overdrive it's set up to an EQ and run into one signal loop and stuff like that. So when I'm playing live, I just hit that overdrive, get a nice little crunch, little bite to it. You know, when I'm playing more prettier stuff, I'll just click on the chorus and the delay. You know, there's a lot of things I like to do. It's very straightforward as far as the pedal's concerned, not a whole lot of frills. You know, and then, you know, like I said, you got the amp, you got the Fender rumble and stuff like that. So tying everything all together, it's really all I need. I mean, I got, you know, a bigger amplification system, you know, but I haven't been able to play anything big enough to be able to use it. But I am going to be setting it up for recording, so that's in a very, very near future.
Wonderful. Can you tell me about your personal music project that you're working on right now?
Oh, yeah, we can absolutely talk about that.
If I may.
No, of course, Carly. Ask me anything you wish.
Anything?
Yes.
We'll stay on the topic of music.
Yeah, we'll talk about that after we're done. Yeah, no, absolutely. Just doing a couple little tunes, just basically to thank some people that have influenced my musical tastes and types of songs I like to play. There's this one gentleman, his name is Jimmy Bell, very, very well-known guitarist. In fact, he was actually the runner-up to Zakk Wylde to play for Ozzy Osbourne.
Holy cow.
Yeah. I've actually come to know Jimmy. He actually owns a company called Shredneck, which I am an endorsee for as well. It's actually a training tool. They have it for guitar and they have it for bass. Basically what it is, I actually should have brought it today. Basically what it is, it's a scaled down neck. It's got a few little frets strung up with actual specially designed bass strings. It's got no truss rod, so you can't tune it. But it just helps you with your fingering technique, finger placement, you know, also chords and stuff like that. Really cool little thing. So, but he had a band that was actually very well known. Well, a couple of his bands are very well known, but the original one is a band called Joint Forces. And they did a song called Angel, I Wanna Fly. It's kind of like a ballad type song, really amazing tune. I'm actually going to be doing my own little version of it. I've already got Jimmy's blessing directly and Livio Gravini, who is the original singer to that song, and all this. And we're going to be doing it. I'm hoping to actually get Jimmy to play guitar on the new version that I'm going to be putting out.
That would be awesome.
It is. This guy is a serious shredder. This guy can play. You know, he's definitely an influence with the music. And then this one other tune for another band on the East Coast called Ballistic. The lead guitar, Ed Savoy, is a good friend. And I was able to talk to him about doing a cover of a song called Discarded Soul. Now, that one's actually pretty heavy in content, but it has something in there that I can personally relate to, which is why I kind of felt like I wanted to do it, because it actually helped me get over a certain something that happened in my life that I was like, hey, you know, this is a very fitting song. So I'm thinking, hey, yeah, let me do a little something for it. So we're hoping to get those and some other songs I'm going to be doing, some new originals. Crossing the Eternal Plane is one of them. And so that's going to be pretty cool. And I think we got another one called Dragon's Fire that we're going to be doing. That one's going to be just wicked. That one's going to be pure, just nasty. You know, it's going to be really cool, real brutal sounding guitars. But I've got some special people that are going to be taking part in these songs with me. These two new ones, mainly Discarded Soul and Angel.
We're all looking forward to hearing them.
I can't wait till I get them out there so you guys can hear them. I can't wait.
Now, to redirect just a little bit, can you share any amazing experiences you've had in the music industry and then some really terrible ones so people can kind of see the parallel of how that all works?
God, you're going to get me in trouble.
No names.
There was probably one of the best experiences, two of the best experiences I could tell you right off about was when I got to do the tribute to Ronnie James Dio, Tracy G. That one seems to get a lot of attention still to this day. You know, I always get just about every interview that I've done, I always get asked about it. And it's awesome. You know, I love it because, you know, Dio's one of my favorite groups. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm not saying that just because I've gotten to know the former guitar player. You know, there's genuine reasons why that band has influenced me. You know, especially the different bass players, different guitar tones that they have and stuff like that. I've just considered myself lucky to have known Tracy all these years. So being able to do that was probably one of the best experiences. And then the second one was doing the anonymous video with Gemini Syndrome. Is probably one of two of the best experiences that I've ever had in my entire career, if I really had to narrow it down. I mean, there's been some other ones. There's really been some really amazing highlights, but those two just will always forever be in my heart.
They take the cake.
Yeah, they do. As far as bad experiences are concerned, I've had very few, luckily.
That is absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, but the one that forever sticks out to me was a few years ago. More than a few, but just to keep it, you know.
It was a few.
Exactly. I got contacted by a country singer on the East Coast who had a pretty big following. And I'm not going to name any names, but I got asked. They flew me out there, and I'm thinking, well, the first question is, how is this going to work? Because I'm a city boy who plays heavy metal, you know, hard rock and stuff like that. How in God's beautiful green earth is this going to work on a country album? Okay, cool. So they flew me to Florence, South Carolina. They flew me out there. I actually did the album in like 2 days, 2-3 days. Flew home.
Wow.
But during that time, the drummer / recording engineer, I will never forget what I was told. There was two things that were mentioned that I'll never forget, ever. He claimed that he can triple kick a bass drum with 1 foot. Yeah, I see the look on your face. There are just so many things that I've heard, you know, but I never thought I'd ever hear with my own ears, being face to face with somebody. And I stepped back, I scratched my head like, did you really just say that right now? You know, it's just one of those things. And
did you give him the opportunity to think about it and reword himself?
No, I actually confronted him on his ego. I actually ended up confronting him on his ego, and I was like, no, not around me. Yeah, because I'll be honest, I have zero tolerance for ego. Because you could be the most talented person in the world, or it doesn't matter what you do. You get an ego, you'll automatically destroy yourself and any further career advancement.
Humility is key.
It
It's
is.
one thing to be confident, but it's a completely different thing to be egocentric about it.
Absolutely, and unfortunately, there's a lot of people out there that
I
are
think
like
people don't know where the fine line is.
that. No, and especially in the field of the music, yeah, a lot of people don't see it. You know, it's really sad, and there is one band I'm not going to mention that I did see ego just basically destroy one particular guitar player. And it was sad to see it. It was very sad to see it, but it's a very destructive thing, and you know, you also have to be respectful, especially to your fans and stuff like that. You know, you definitely have to be humble in this particular realm because they'll eat you alive.
Yeah.
I've seen it. It's sad.
It is. And when I see musicians pardon me, I just tripped over my words.
No problem.
Disrespect their fans, it's kind of heartbreaking because you're really doing it not just for yourself, but you're doing it for your listeners as well. You're trying to give them a little piece of joy and something memorable and an escape from all the stress and struggles of the real world.
You're giving them a piece of yourself. And that's the thing, you know, when you're doing your music, you have to put yourself into it because otherwise it's not going to mean anything, you know? And again, this goes back to being humble, especially when you're up on the stage performing. You know, when you're doing all this, you know, theory, you know, stupid things, you know, like, it's like, why? Why do you want to show off? Why can't you just play with your heart? Because to me, if you just play with your mind, with your knowledge, to me, it's just noise, you know?
And just the technical aspect without the actual feel behind it.
They go overboard. They really go overboard. I could actually think probably a number of musicians that I've seen do that and just like I said, they just have this superiority complex about them. They think that they're better than everyone else. And no, you're not better than everyone else. There's always someone going to be bigger, better, and far more talented than you. And if somebody is like that, what I suggest to them, shut up, watch, listen, and learn. You know, that's how it works. That's how you become good. You know, but if you're going to have this mind frame, oh, I can do this, I can do that, you can, but you really need to really get a grip on yourself along those lines.
The day you stop learning your craft is the day your craft dies,
Exactly.
at least. That's the way I see it anyway.
No, I 100% agree with you with that, yeah. You know, if I felt that I was getting to the point where I wasn't getting the messages out, I wasn't getting the emotions out, you know, whatever it is, through my music, I wouldn't want to play. And I mean, I've had bits of feedback from people telling me that some of my tunes have actually moved them to tears. You know, I've had anything ranging from that. I've had the most recent one from Crossing the Eternal Plane, which was still really interesting to me. I've had people tell me your sound is really raw. You know, it sounds really good. This is what we like and stuff like that. And it gives me energy and stuff like that. But also at the same time, if music can provoke an emotional response, I think it's powerful enough to actually change somebody's life.
I think it can. Has music changed your life in any way? In terms of that kind of powerful emotional response?
Yes, actually, yeah. And a couple of, one directly affected me, and one was actually directed towards somebody that I got to know. I'll start with this one first. This gentleman, his name is Dean. A fantastic drummer. Back in the early days when I was first starting recording some of my early songs like The Rise of the Phoenix and Meet Your Demise, you know, some of these other ones, you know, I'm sure you can tell by the titles that these are pretty aggressive songs, and they were. They really were. And I remember it was around the time I had just released The Rise of the Phoenix, which actually that one got a lot of attention. It was actually used for a podcast intro theme and, you know, a few other things. That one's made its rounds for a lot of things. I got this email from this gentleman one day. I guess he just had some kind of a substance abuse issue. He was really struggling with that. And what he went on to say that really moved me deep down, and he told me that my music got him to come around again to playing drums. It actually got him to stop doing drugs, cleaned his act up.
That is incredible.
It was amazing. And then shortly after, I was playing an event, playing a charity event, which unfortunately I'm no longer involved in now, due to some possible fraud of the event as well. I was up on the stage, and this gentleman comes up to me and he's, "So Alexander?" Turn around. I'm like, "Yeah, it's me." It's like, "Yeah, it's me, Dean." And I looked at him. I was like, "What the hell?" I honestly didn't recognize him. I didn't recognize the guy because I guess he had changed. It just really cleaned himself up. He looked good. He looked healthy. And he just came up to me. Just gave me probably like the biggest hug, that I can ever imagine getting, from anyone. He told me a story. He told me how my music affected him and inspired him to get back to playing drums, and still to this day he's out there playing again. And knowing that I was able to change his life really meant a lot to me, and still does to this very day.
Probably one of the most sentimental compliments ever.
Yeah, it actually was. There's been a couple other instances where I've had just amazing feedback like that, but knowing the power of music as it is, knowing that it can change somebody's life, because see, music, it allows you to convey a message, to someone, whether if you want somebody to know that you love them, or somebody to know that you're there for them, whatever the case may be, it's always there. It's always going to be there, and knowing
It's a universal language.
Exactly. It's something that everyone can truly understand. And as far as myself, as far as my personal life, it had. Sorry, I get a little lump in my throat. For a little bit of a time, I was going through. Excuse me. I was going through a little bit of a dark time, where I was kind of struggling with a lot of rejection, dealing with some depression and stuff like that, and it got to the point where I felt like I didn't want to carry on, and again, bringing music into it, or music literally saved my life. There is a couple of songs actually from Gemini Syndrome that actually helped me really bounce back from it. And at a show with Gemini, they were in LA. Went to go see them, and got to talk to Aaron and explain to him. And I literally just broke down in tears. I just broke down in tears, and I told him, I said, thank you for saving my life. So I do owe him a debt for that. And, but before all that, the band really meant something to me. Now, there is personal history between Aaron and I. We've known each other for over 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah, and him and I, we have had our days of shenanigans. we have, but there's a common ground that him and I are on outside of music, and it's really solidified my friendship with him. He's basically the brother that I've never had, and
that is remarkable.
Yeah, and one thing that's one thing that I did to basically solidify that, and amongst some other things, as to how that band has affected me, not just influenced, but straight up affected my life. I actually have their symbol tattooed on my arm.
Wow.
Like that, yeah, and all that. So
you can carry that with you
forever. Yeah.
So because we're kind of hitting our little time deadline right now, do you have anything you would like your fans to know before we conclude this interview? Any words of wisdom or just words of appreciation of any thanks?
We'd be here for another hour or two. No, just stick to your guns, follow what you do, and just keep in mind that true success is not defined by a fancy house or a fancy car, stuff like that. True success is defined when you've really mastered your instrument, and that means playing from your heart and your mind together. That's how that works, you know. I do got to say thank you to Bill over at Morley, Hoogie from SIT, and the BTPA cables. These are two companies I've had the pleasure of working with through a company called WB Gear, which is a really great company. They house companies for upcoming bands, upcoming musicians, but there's even some serious pros that take part in this. But yeah, definitely Brad over at BTPA cables. We got Daryl Anders from MXR pedals. Definitely got to give a big thanks to him. Bert from Intune. Hoogie, like I said, over at SIT. We got Scott and Tommy from EMG. But most importantly, Jim over at Strictly 7. You know, just a big thank you to everybody that's really allowed me to craft my sound using just some of the best gear in the world. You know, and personal thanks to to Corey Pierce. He was one of my musical influences. Him and Beaker. He played bass for God Forbid. Those guys are very serious influences. You know, I got to thank them. Rick Fox from Wasp, the founding bass player, for influencing my sound. Of course, Tracy G. And definitely thanks to the camp of Gemini Syndrome for having such a positive effect on my life.
Well, thank you so much for this lovely interview.
It's been great. It's definitely been, I'd have to say it's probably been the best interview that I've done, you know, in quite some time.
I am humbly complimented. Now, for all of you, be sure to stay in touch with Alexander G at the links posted below. Thank you.
Everybody love each other.
Stay nice to each other.